Today we have a different kind of video than our usual. You see, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the most attractive motorcycles that are out there on the market. But what if you already have a partner and you're not necessarily trying to attract anyone, but maybe you're trying to convince your partner on a certain type of bike? Well, I've put together 5 motorcycles that I think are easy sells for your partner. And for that, I've brought along Tommy because you have a wife. You have successfully found a way to marry another human being, which is pretty impressive.
Unlikely.
And you also have a motorcycle license, and you've also been tossing around the idea of buying yourself a bike. So I think I might also be helping you out here.
So these are bikes that you think I can convince my wife Morgan to let me buy.
Exactly. And you always agree with my picks, especially when it comes to motorcycles. So I think this is going to go really well.
So there are a couple of factors that come into this. And I think one of the big ones right off the bat is going to be affordability, right?
Yes.
Like we're still a pretty young couple, so spending 25, 30 grand on a fully loaded Harley is going to be kind of a tough sell. But let's see if Case has done it right. And I think your first choice is pretty affordable.
Yeah, so what I have here is a Royal Enfield Continental GT. You could really replace this with nearly any bike out of Royal Enfield's lineup, I would say, because they're all pretty affordable. This is one of the more expensive, and you can still get them new MSRP for less than $7,000. So that meets the cheap criteria. It's definitely pretty affordable to get into. And as we found when we were looking at attractive motorcycles, it seems like across the board, people find Triumphs very attractive. I think that would cross over to this. It's also not an insanely fast motorcycle, so no need to worry about your partner getting into trouble on a bike that's got around 50 horsepower. That's a pretty good option.
What's the displacement?
This one is a 650.
Okay, so pretty big displacement. Is it a single or is it a...
No, it's a parallel twin.
Oh, very, very vintage British, this bike, Case.
And what's cool is that this bike has a lot of that vintage feel and look to it, but not necessarily the maintenance. So your wife won't lose you into the garage all weekend because of your motorcycle. She will lose you into the garage because of your World War II Army Jeep and your Model T and the other Model T and the Model
Point made, yes. I think this is a great choice, Case, because you got that affordability right off the bat.
Yep.
It's got that kind of cool vintage look that is approachable to a non-bike person.
Totally.
So someone like Morgan who isn't into motorcycles is going to look at this and think, oh, it's not some crazy street bike like a Hayabusa. It looks like a fun vintage run around town kind of bike, maybe take out on the weekends. And it's got that weekend warrior look where, you know, clearly this is not something I'm commuting on, but it's something I can have fun on the weekends. And yeah, this is awesome.
And we live here in Colorado, so actually a Himalayan might even be a better option for where we are, because there's a lot of cool light off-roading, fire roads, that kind of stuff, trails that would be fun to ride on as well. So right off the bat, I've found a bike that we agree on. The next one, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
So you mentioned earlier, fully loaded Harley. For the record, I have not shown him this list of bikes before the video, but you know the kind of motorcycles I'm into.
Now, the thing I think that this bike could attract a partner with is the ability to ride 2-up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the other things I was thinking about with that Royal Enfield is like, there's really no way she's going to hop on the back of that and enjoy an afternoon. But this could be something interesting. So walk us through what we're looking through.
Yeah, this is a Harley-Davidson Street Glide. It's one of the new Street Glides, 117 cubic inch V-twin. So big motor. I think for this bike, you got to put yourself in the shoes of yourself maybe 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
Where maybe you've got a little bit more disposable income. You've been riding for a little bit longer. You want to do some longer road trips, like you said, 2-up on something that's comfortable, it's stable, it's got nice technology, and it's not going to be the kind of bike where she's worried about you dragging knee on corners on your way to the grocery store or something, because it's just a big, comfortable bike.
So what about like convenience features? Because she's really into not being cold. She's really into listening to music. She's also really into not having wind pummeled in her face at 85. Does this bike meet those criteria?
Yeah, it's got a big
Heated seats?
fairing.
Heated seats?
That's a good question. Not that I know of. I could be wrong about that. Let me know in the comments, because it's been a while since I rode the Street Glide, and when I rode it, it was not cold, so I wasn't looking around for a heated seat. But music, you definitely have.
I think she would hate this bike if I was riding on like a regular basis. But if I pitched to her, why don't we go take 2 weeks in the summer and go explore South Dakota or Arizona or whatever, maybe not in the summer, she might be kind of into that. And I think that's how you'd have to approach this bike if you're trying to convince your spouse, right? Is like, this is an opportunity.
It's for us.
It's for us,
It's
Case.
not for me.
You're right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So
Do you actually think she would ride on the back of that with you?
believe it or not, even though she says she really hates Harley Davidsons, I think if you could get her on it, she'd find it to be pretty fun. And the other thing too is like it's got, I would assume, I've never ridden one, but a sense of stability, right?
Oh yeah.
So it kind of got some weight and heft to it. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be wobbling around. I think she'd find that pretty interesting.
It doesn't get pushed around by the wind a whole lot. We'll say that much.
It's a stretch, but it's a good choice. Yeah.
All right, next up on the list.
Oh God.
We've got a dirt bike. See, here's how you pitch this one. This one, you have fun in the dirt. You stay off of the road. You're not surrounded by other cars. You're all padded up, and you go out with your buddies, get some exercise, keeps you healthy, good cardio. And again, you're not in the middle of traffic. It's perfect, especially if it's a two-stroke, Tommy. This one is not. I think this is just a 250 Yamaha four-stroke. But if you go out and find an older two-stroke, maybe CR500,
I would die immediately, and then she would be very displeased with you. So here's the thing: you were saying all the right things at the beginning with staying off the road, right?
Yep.
But a bike like this, to I think a typical partner, screams motocross, and there is nothing less safe in the average person's mind than motocross, right? You got big jumps, you got broken bones. I mean, if you had shown up here with like an XR 150,
right,
then we would be talking, right? A little dual sport, you know?
Not a 500 two-stroke, Tommy?
Maybe like a KLX 250, got some headlights. The problem with dirt bikes is in order for the spouse to accept them, they have to look dorky. This looks cool.
It's too cool.
If this bike had giant turn signals and fat mirrors hanging off the top that made it look like something from Toy Story, then it's acceptable.
But then it's a dirt bike that you would ride on the street.
Yeah, but she would know that would suck on the street because it looks terrible.
Yeah, because we're assuming a partner that's not into motorcycles at all is kind of where I'm going with this list, not a partner who also rides or anything. So a partner who's not into motorcycles, you're figuring they're going to see the turn signals and they're going to be like, oh, this is a dual sport, not an MX. So it's not going to be very good to ride on the street, which means they're going to use it more like an MX, which means they should have gotten an MX in the first place.
The other thing is I show up at this and be like, look what I got. And she's like, awesome. How much was it? I'm like, it was 10 grand. And she's like, well, kind of a lot of money, but at least you have it now. And I'm like, oh, also, I either need to get a truck or a trailer to bring it to wherever I'm going to bring it. So that's added expense.
You have a truck, you have a Model T.
Yeah, I'll just stick it in the Model T, babe. It'll be fine. But realistically, Case, this is kind of a bigger expense than like a beginner basic motorcycle. So this is going to be a no for me, dog.
I agree. It's a really good idea. So definitely one to pitch your partner on. Next up, this is a Kawasaki Eliminator. You could also put in place of this like a Rebel 500 or something. This is a perfect learner bike. It's going to be good on fuel because it's a little 451cc parallel twin.
Yep.
Once again, not a ton of power, not tons of features, but it's a small, not crazy powerful bike that's got a low seat height. And even if you had a partner that you wanted to teach how to do some basic riding on, this would actually be a pretty good option.
Okay, interesting approach there. So instead of having a partner just ride along, make it a learning opportunity.
Good.
Not bad. A little worried. Is this genuinely like a beginner bike, or is this the Case beginner bike where, wow, it's 1100 cc's instead of 1275? So it's...
No, it's 451 cc.
Okay, not bad.
It's even less powerful, I think, than the Royal Enfield was.
Low seat height. Approachable.
It is called Eliminator. Do you think that's going to be a problem?
It might be a problem. I think another thing which makes motorcycles less intimidating to my friends is colors.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think, and I don't have car friends or motorcycle friends, but when I talk about motorcycles, the first thing they go to is that Road King. Let's be honest. And that does have a certain level of stigma and maybe some baggage, literally and figuratively attached to it. But if you show up with like a bright orange Rebel, that's just like, that's more of a toy and less of a lifestyle. So I think the color thing also, believe it or not, it's stupid, but I think it does play into it.
So you don't have any friends that are into cars or motorcycles?
Well,
Noted.
I have Case.
Noted.
Case
All right.
is more or less into cars and
So
motorcycles.
now we know. Now we know where we stand.
Case has terrible choice of motorcycles. I don't know why you watch this channel.
Eliminator, that's a good choice.
The name is also a problem.
Oh, well, you could do the Rebel.
The Rebel is better.
Rebel works. It's almost, it's very nearly the same thing.
You know what's a good bike that you'd be into? A Z125 by Kawasaki.
Why? Because they haven't updated it?
She would know
At all
that is
recently.
the reliable workhorse of the Kawasaki Minimoto fleet.
Well, speaking of mini motos, it's fortunate you brought it up because our final bike on the list is one that you literally can't disagree with because this is currently the motorcycle that you own. It's not an exact picture of yours, but yours is also red. So there you go.
On the Monkey.
Can't argue with that.
I got this one before I met her. She
Yep.
wasn't stoked when she saw it, but when I actually started riding it around, I looked so dumb on it. She's like, "There's no way someone's going to hit that guy because he just looks like such a bear riding a bicycle."
Yeah,
And I'm not a big guy. This is a great choice case, partly because it's cheap, right?
it is. They're very affordable. You can get them. I mean, the MSRP is right around $4,000. You're going to be out the door for more than that. And that's just going to depend on dealer fees and everything. But it's also going to be inexpensive to operate.
Yeah.
Because we've done some MPG tests on some of these Honda Minimoto bikes. And several times we've gotten a good margin over 100 miles per gallon on these. This is not a bike that you want to ride on the highway. I have. It's not great.
I have as well. It was really
Yeah,
bad.
I've ridden yours on the highway. It's not awesome. But if you're going maybe 50 mile per hour or less, then these bikes are totally adequate and you're going to get crazy good fuel economy, save some money. Pretty good idea.
That actually, the lack of highway ability is a big selling point to a partner, I think, that really cares about safety. Because one of Morgan's holdups is when she was first getting her license, she saw a fatal wreck involving a motorcycle on Interstate 25.
Yeah.
And I think she associates motorcycles with interstate, but this is clearly not something that's going to go on the interstate.
No, that on I-25 would be
Horrifying.
beyond dangerous. That would be really, really bad. What I will say is, and I'm relatively sure about this. This is, I think, an older statistic, but I believe it's actually a little bit more dangerous riding off of the highway because you're passing through more intersections. So there's more opportunities for someone to pull out in front of you. So I think statistically, actually, technically, you're safer on the highway. But
We're not going to tell her that.
we also make those kind of associations in our mind of what we think of as safe and not safe. And whatever way you spin it, if you look at a Honda Monkey, you're not going to think that's dangerous.
No, I mean, and this is like the ultimate in, we talked about approachability, right? But it doesn't seem threatening in any way. It's got a big round headlight, it's bright colors, it's got a low seat height, it's got little
called a
tiny
Monkey.
wheels. And even more so than that Illuminator you showed me, this is something that they use in motorcycle safety training courses,
Yeah.
right? Because it's so simple and easy to ride. I think that this is a really good choice. She actually does like my Monkey. She thinks it's pretty cool and kind of vintage. I like my Monkey because I think it's pretty cool and kind of vintage. And the other great thing too about these case, from what I've seen, and I could be wrong about this, is you're not going to lose a ton of money. So
Yeah.
you buy one for $4,300, $4,500. You doink around in it for a couple of years. You're probably still going to get $3,000 or $3,500 out of it.
Yeah.
So this is a very affordable way when you factor in depreciation to get into the hobby.
Absolutely. And if you do currently ride, or if you're planning to start riding, or even if you're just a driver who enjoys learning about motorcycles, whatever way you get around, if you ever need legal representation either on 2 wheels or 4, be sure to check out Rider Justice. There's a sponsor for this channel, and they have been almost since day one of this channel because they're really great to work with, and they like helping out people not just because it's a business, but because it's something they're genuinely passionate about. So if you ever need legal representation, make sure you call Scott first. Scott and the team over at Rider Justice are just awesome. And let me know too down in the comments below if there's a motorcycle that's not on this list that you've pitched your partner on and it worked. Drop a comment about it and let us know, how did you pitch that and what was the bike that you pitched?
I mean, I think the only one you're missing is like a big BMW that the police use. Because those look
Interesting. Yeah, why?
extra comfy. They've got a lot of features.
Sure.
And they look like
They
they're
are.
good long distance. And they got to be good if the police use them. which seems like a dumb argument, but believe it or not, that actually probably would work.
I gotta say, and this is just a personal bias of mine, but whenever I see somebody get off of a big, ugly BMW with side cases and they're wearing a high visibility riding jacket and all these things, I immediately think that is someone that is serious about riding because they're obviously not doing it to look cool.
Yes.
They're doing it because they genuinely love motorcycling, and because of that, they're really good at it. So yeah, if you're on one of those big BMWs, my immediate thought is that's a good rider right there.
Yeah, so if we look back at your list, I'm going to give the Royal Enfield a yes.
Thumbs up.
The Harley's a maybe.
Double thumbs up.
That's a hard no. The Yamaha's a hard no.
Ah.
I'm going to give the Eliminator a maybe, and I think the Monkey is going to be the best choice for affordability, approachability, and quote unquote, it looks safer because it can't go fast.
Yeah, exactly, which is not a bad way to pitch it, and that could be your foot in the door
No
to
Vespa?
then eventually.
You didn't put a Vespa on the list? The cutest of motorcycles? Scooters?
Let's not start calling Vespas motorcycles on the channel. I don't want to go down that road. But that's all for this video. Once again, let us know in the comments below if there's a motorcycle you think is even better to pitch to your spouse than a Monkey. I doubt it.
Nope, that's the peak.
That's all for this video. We'll see you in the next.